and give a brief introduction to him, and then he's going to take it away. James May is a professor of English as a second language at Valencia College in Orlando, Florida. He is also this year's Professor of the Year for the Florida Association of Colleges. Congratulations, James. James earned his doctorate at the University of Florida, where he studied applied linguistics and multilingual, multicultural education. His current research and presentation interests center around faculty development and computer-assisted language learning. For the past 5 years, he's been presenting and consulting on how best to take advantage of Web 2.0 in the classroom. And if you'd like to learn more about his work or learn some of his teacher tricks, you can visit him at his video blog, which is teachertricks.org. But we'll show you more about that as this session goes on. So James, I am turning this over to you.
Okay, hello and welcome. Today, let's see here, showing my screen. At this point, I'm hoping everybody is seeing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Well, hello and welcome. Today's presentation is going to be about, it's going to be more of a showcase than anything else. I'm going to show you how to use some of the free Web 2.0 technologies and how to embed them into SoftChalk so that you can make the most out of your SoftChalk lessons using a variety of different techniques. The particular applications I'll be talking about today have to do with something from Corpus Linguistics. Screen Jelly is another application. Prezi, I'll be talking about how to use YouTube, Voicethread, Google Docs, and Poll Everywhere. And we'll be going through these, since there are so many of them, we're going to be going through them at a relatively fast clip. If you have questions, please ask the questions, and then Steve's going to, there's apparently 380 of you, he's going to hold the questions and try to get the questions to me towards the end rather than interrupting, otherwise we may not make it on time. I do want to give you a little heads up. I did create a SoftChalk module that I've uploaded, and it's on the web already, which I'll give you the link to at the end of this presentation. And it looks a little bit like this. Where everything is explained. Everything I'm going to show you today is explained. I've also made YouTube videos to teach you how to do everything I'm about to show you. A couple other things that I've done is you will have handouts that you can get. For example, I've done a simple summary. If you're not sure how to embed widgets or how to embed different things, I've made a simple summary so that you'll be able to actually download and print it off so you can have it with you. But I've also, I know that SoftChalk offers the ability to print an entire lesson, but I've also turned the lesson into a PDF document, and so you can look at the full presentation in PDF mode. You have the ability here to download it to your Kindle. For those of you who use the Kindle, and for those of you who use Note Color, I saved it in both formats for you, so you can also get it in that format. Also, if you do go to the, yes?
I think it might be a time to do that poll, you know, which we're asking whether or not they're familiar with, you know, the terms that you're using, and sort of get a sense for where they are for you as you go on.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the poll is up, and you may want to sort of give some background. We'll leave this up for about 30 seconds or so. So, okay, most of you.
My goal is for you guys to understand that I'm going to be moving. There's a lot of content. I'm going to be moving quickly, and I want you to understand that you're going to have access to video instructions for everything I'm showing you at this website that I'll give you at the end of this. I'm going to after I told you that, I was going to ask you questions about your background so I can begin to know where to start and how much time to spend on specific aspects of this presentation. Do we have the results?
Yes, and I'm not sure how well you can see them, but I can see them very clearly. 10% have never heard those terms. 19% have heard them, but really don't know anything about them. And 50% have heard about them and know very little. And only 20% of the audience know a lot about that and feel comfortable with it.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
That's okay. Well, that's fine. Another thing that I will do is that when you are online, you'll see this Teach Me, Ask Me. This is actually some of the content that I'll be showing you today, but you can embed into SoftChalk surveys that will actually compile all the answers for you into a spreadsheet, and that's exactly what this is. As you go through the content I've developed, if you go through it after this course, you can, if you see something and you have a good idea and you want to share it with me, you can teach me, or if you have something you've learned, feel free to ask me, and perhaps I'll develop something for my web blog that can help you learn better how to use this content. Before we get started, the least you need to know is some basic vocabulary. I'm sure many of you have heard of HTML. You may not be sure of what it is, but it's really simply put the code behind a website. This is a fancy website. If I were to go behind this website and try to view the source, view the page source, what I would see is code, and this code is HTML. Most of us don't use HTML. Most of us use Microsoft Word or some other software to make a web page work. SoftChalk is software that makes web pages work, and SoftChalk could be called a WYSIWYG editor. This is another word you need to know is WYSIWYG. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get, and I'm going to flip over to SoftChalk here, and what you see is SoftChalk, and you'll notice that what you see in SoftChalk is what you get on the website. Now in SoftChalk you can go into the tools and view the source, but people don't regularly do that. You do the easy. Well, good news for you is that you're not going to need to know necessarily HTML or WYSIWYG, but you do need to know what these names are, because as I present you're going to see how it gets applied. For example, a widget. A widget is an application. It could be a badge or a gadget. You see them on websites all the time. People put clocks or auction tickers or stock market tickers or flight information, little windows within a website. It's simply code that you can embed or put into a website. SoftChalk, some of you have used the widget. If you go to insert, you have the ability to insert a widget. And so no matter where you are in SoftChalk, if you put your cursor and you go to insert, widget, it asks for three things: the name of your widget, a description for your widget, and widget embed code. I'm going to teach you about a variety of applications, and you're going to be able to, you don't need to know the code, you just need to be able to copy and paste the code to make them work inside of SoftChalk. That's the beauty of these new technologies. So let's go back here. A mashup. Mashup is a term that you may understand as putting two or three things together. For example, many of you have probably seen YouTube, and you know that you could put YouTube inside of SoftChalk. Well, you can use other technologies and other technologies that I'm showing you today to actually make videos like you would see on YouTube. Matter of fact, you could take one technology to make a presentation, another technology to turn it into a video, another technology, and you mash it in and you put it all into SoftChalk, and you've got content that you can share with your students. The trick is learning the basic skills, and then you can begin to put all kinds of tricks together and really have some great content for your students. Embed code is the code that you'll copy and paste to make things happen. And so this is the key content, the key vocabulary at least you need to know before we get started with this presentation today. Now, moving into the next area, I'm assuming that not a lot of you are linguists. I don't know. We may have a large linguist contingent in the crowd. I'm not going to survey that. But I would like to start with corpora. Some of you may have heard of Corpus Christi, Texas. You may not be aware that Corpus Christi is Latin for body of Christ. Corpse in CSI Miami is often the dead body. When you think of corpora, corpse basically means body. And when we talk about Corpus Linguistics, we're talking about the body of language. In the last 70 years or so, we've been able to do a lot of really neat research on language. And I'm a linguist and a language teacher. And so I'm going to show you how you can use some of that for your benefit in all of your classes, in all of your disciplines. Why should you know this? Well, this might make math teachers upset, but 2,570 words is equal to 6,000 words thanks to Corpus Linguistics. What we found out is that in the large vocabulary of English, although we have a very large vocabulary, many words are repeated, especially in academic texts. And for example, the first 10 words of English, the most common 10 words in English, make up 24% of all of English. The top 2,000 words make up 80% of English. Now, to bridge the gap to 90%, you can do one of two things. You can learn 6,000 words or the academic word list. And the academic word list is made up of 570 words, which gets us back to the point. If you know 2,570 words, you pretty much know 90% of an academic text. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, as you create content in SoftChalk, what happens is you cut and paste in something that you think is interesting for students to read, and it may have vocabulary that students don't know. For example, if I was teaching other teachers how to be teachers of English as a second language, I might talk about phonology, and I may talk about things that students do. For example, students will often use epinthesis or have something happen as a result of epinthesis. With a rollover, with a text popper, I can put in the definition of epinthesis, which is simply that students from other countries may add extra sounds. For example, a Persian student might say baradar instead of brother. A Spanish speaker may say estoy instead of study. And this kind of thing, if you have a word that needs to be glossed or given a definition to, you can use a text popper. Text poppers are easy to find. You just highlight a word. I'm back in SoftChalk now. You highlight a word, you say insert text popper. Once you insert the text popper, of course, you can put the word and the definition, and you can pick a variety of styles, which I'm sure some of you have seen. But how do you know which words to gloss? We're all experts in our own fields, and at some point we became biased and have forgotten what words we know and what words we didn't know when we started out. And so how do we know what our community college or high school students, what vocabulary will they know, what vocabulary will they not know? When we read it, of course, it seems normal to us, but we're familiar with the vocabulary already. Now, so how do you find out the right words? How do you know which words to make gloss? Especially given that in the community college where I teach, research has shown that about 60 to 70% of the students entering community colleges now enter into developmental courses. If you have developmental readers with lack of cultural background knowledge, that could be a problem when they're trying to read academic texts. So how do you create the glosses? Well, this right here you may recognize. This content comes from 2 sample lessons that are on SoftChalk's website. I simply copied them and put them in here. But now I'm going to show you the difference between what's in blue here was actually glossed by the content developer. So the person who created the iAnatomy course glossed these blue words. The person who created the hurricane course glossed the word hurricane. But when I ran it through a corpus sample, what happened was these other words like iris and constrict and aqueous popped out saying, hey, students may have trouble with those words. Now, how did I do that? Well, it's pretty easy if you know where to go, and that's what I'm going to show you. On the website I'm going to give you, you'll have all the links and all the instructions you need, but for right now I'm going to show you that if you right-click and copy your content, it could be a short amount of content, or it can be a large amount of content, multiple pages. You can go to this website, which is a vocabulary profiler, and paste in your content and submit the words. And what you're going to find is, as Corpus Linguistics has shown, 70% of the language comes from the first 1,000 words. Another 10% of the language comes from the second 1,000 words, making about 80% of the English. Then you've got words on the academic word list, and then you're going to have what are called off-list words. When I cut and pasted this in, I immediately got a list of words that students may need definitions for. As a second language teacher, I can quickly glance at these and go, okay, they're not going to know aperture, they're not going to know aqueous, a Beaufort scale, they're not going to understand what that is. And so it would be helpful as I develop the content to identify these words. But there's even better tools to help you define these words. For example, some of you may have heard of easy define. Easy define, you can cut the words out, paste them in, and with one click of a button, generate an entire definition list of all the words that you have. Now you can go back into SoftChalk, highlight the word you want to define, insert it as a text popper, and come up with the definitions for your students to make the context make sense for them. All right, so let's go back here. Again, comparing the 2 methods, you can see many words needed to be highlighted. Let's talk about Screen Jelly. This is the second of the apps that I'm going to talk to you about today. Screen Jelly is a screencasting software app. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. I'm going to take you to Screen Jelly right now. This is what Screen Jelly looks like. And what happens is if you click this red button, you begin recording your screen. It gives you a 5-second countdown. And whatever happens on your screen and whatever you say into the speaker system of your computer, if you're using a headset with a speaker system or using your laptop's external mic, it gets recorded. Now, it's recorded, and when you press stop, you have the video. Now, I can play the video back for you, and you'll notice that it's playing exactly what I did. And now, in a second from now, I'll click through the different windows. And so the real benefit of Screen Jelly is that you can immediately take this video and you can tweet it to friends, you can email it to students, you can Facebook it, or you can share it by embedding it. In other words, you could make a video for your students and then embed it. And so if you, say, use a WebCT or a Blackboard, and there's certain features that you always get questions on, you could do a screen capture of how to do something and then embed it so that students can see a video explanation of how to do something rather than reading long and difficult to understand text. If I go in here and look at my recordings, and I'm going to cancel that one because I don't need to resave that. Here's a sample recording I did for just to show you something. But what's interesting is when you click share, you get the embed code. If you copy the embed code, it copies it right to your clipboard. That means you can go back to SoftChalk, figure out where you want to put it in the presentation, insert a widget. I go over somewhere else here. Insert a widget, and then paste the embed code. Now all you have to do is give it a description and a name, and your video has been embedded into SoftChalk. It's a very easy thing to do. You're taking advantage of both a Web 2.0 app that's free and SoftChalk. Now, storage of these videos, ScreenJelly actually stores these videos for you. Creating an account with them is free. Another tool they have, which is an amazingly cool tool, is that you can actually embed this little widget. Now, this widget comes from this code right here, which again I share with you on the website. But this widget allows your students to make their own video recordings. So let's say you have a SoftChalk module, and students are reading or learning, and you want to ask them a question that they want to answer verbally. Well, your students can click on this button, and now they can record the screen. And now anything that's going on in the screen, they're recording. And when they hit stop, there's their video, and now they can send that to you for feedback, or they can send it to each other and do exactly what you did with it. In other words, we can video back and forth asynchronously using these ScreenJelly technologies. All right, so now we're on to the next technology. This next technology is Prezi. Prezi is a presentation technology, and I kind of like the way they define it on their website, and that's why I used this here. But what they do is they say that for the last 50 years or so, we've pretty much used PowerPoint type or overhead type projection of media. It's been a slide at a time. And they've kind of changed things. And a cool thing you can do if you like Prezi is you can actually do a mashup, and that's why this mashup idea is here. You can make content in Prezi if you like Prezi, video record it with ScreenJelly, and then embed it in SoftChalk, and now you've mashed up 3 different technologies to make something new for your students. Let me show you a little bit on how I use Prezi. For example, this past week we had Valentine's Day, and I made some content for my students. This is a Valentine's Day presentation, and this is kind of how Prezi looks. One of the neat things about Prezi is as you scroll through Prezi, things move. And you can ask questions and talk with it, but if you have a YouTube video embedded in here, it scrolls right to it and starts playing it. Now you can ask questions and move around through Prezi, and it just begins to give content in a different way. It's not the same as what you would see in, say, a PowerPoint presentation. That's Prezi. Let's go over and look at Prezi some more. One of the this particular presentation is a presentation I used in my competition for the Professor of the Year, where I was showing that you can embed different technologies in the classroom while simultaneously teaching different things. But on the Prezi website, you have your own Prezis, and again, this is free, but they also have a great resource for learning. They actually have video instructions, screencasted video instructions that take you through the tutorials for how to turn your content into Prezi content. Another thing that's nice is that when you are in the content, of course, it has the embed code. It's real easy. You don't have to understand what the embed code does. You just have to be able to click the word embed code, click in here, and copy it. Then when you go back to SoftChalk, click Insert a Widget, and paste it, and now a Prezi presentation is right into SoftChalk. It's that easy. All right, so let's go back here and close this out and go back to the presentation. And so we have Prezi, and we have ScreenJelly, and now we're going to move forward to YouTube. I'm sure many of you use YouTube. I don't know if you use YouTube in your classrooms or if you just use YouTube at home to just view things and enjoy. A lot of people nowadays are starting to take YouTube videos with their cameras. You can capture something with your camera and send it directly to YouTube. There are projects that I've seen where you put students and you have students make YouTube videos and they can share with each other while they're learning. I use YouTube to better connect with my students. For example, as a pre-reading activity or a pre-writing activity, I might give some background. I have a reading I do with students on savants. And prior to the reading on savants, if I want to build up background knowledge, I may play this video about this musical genius. This guy is blind. He is autistic. He doesn't know his right from his left, and he can't count to 10. But he can play anything you can say. Anything you play, he can pick up and play. Anything you do on a piano, he can listen to at one time and play it. He's a walking iPod. And so I show that to them as background, and then I give them the reading. Now, I sometimes do both, and I'll put them in a SoftChalk module. I'll use the video, the reading, and then I'll lead them into a writing prompt. It's mashing up the different technologies to facilitate background knowledge for my students. Another thing that I found works really well with my students is that they already have a bunch of YouTube videos that they love. And so every semester I ask them what their favorite YouTube videos are. I then look through their videos, find the ones that I think I can attach to content that I'm teaching, and find a way to embed it. I find a way to take something that they're already doing and use it in the classroom as scaffolding for what I have to teach them. I hope that makes sense. Let's keep going and then move on. Voicethread. Voicethread is another technology. It's a technology that is kind of like a discussion board. If you've ever used that in a web class, you teacher posts a comment and everybody posts in and posts their responses to the comment and interacts in that way. Except this is a little bit different. It's a little bit different in that. Let me show you what my Voicethread looks like. Here we have a Voicethread. I was watching Comedy Central, and I saw a comedian do a skit on, it's called Is It Racist? And the content was very interesting, and I thought it would fit with my students. And so I went out to Comedy Central, and I grabbed the embed code for the video from Comedy Central, and I threw it into this particular presentation in Voicethread. I showed it to my students, and I said, hey, what do you guys think? Give me your ideas. I was going to lead that into an essay that they were going to write on different behaviors, but what happened is they all responded, and they have different ways to respond. Their faces, you can see them around the periphery of the presentation, but when they respond, they can call in and respond. They can actually use a web camera on their laptop to respond. They can record their voice and just send their voice with a picture. If they'd rather just use text like a regular discussion board, they can do that. And they can do all of this. And what's neat is, of course, it has the embed code. And so now you can make a SoftChalk lesson and then embed this particular technology into SoftChalk. And so, for example, you may be teaching something in SoftChalk, and then you take a picture of it and you put it in here, and you have all of your students log in and respond to the SoftChalk module, and their names will pop up, and it'll update as you're going with everything they're saying. And you can listen through. With the way the speakers are set up, I can't let you listen, but you can listen through, and I can click on this person to see what she had to say, or I can click on this person to see what she had to say. And so what happens is this is very interesting technology, and again, like all these other technologies, they have the embed code, and because they have embed code, you can go back to SoftChalk, insert a widget, paste the code, and it's in SoftChalk ready to roll. Now, let's go back here. Let's go back to harnessing the power. So that is Voicethread. Google Docs. I'm not sure how many of you use Google Docs or Google Forms. I know that a lot of colleges are coming online now with Microsoft has a product that has basically copied what Google Docs did. Google, what they did a long time ago is they made it possible for you to access Word documents, presentations, spreadsheets, surveys, drawings. You could access any kind of document online. You didn't have to have Microsoft Word or any of the downloaded software. The software was free. You would log online and you'd be able to work on the document. And then Google would store the document for you online. And one of the neat things about that is that if you have a document, say for example, let's go in here. I have a Teach Me, Ask Me, which is what I was telling you guys about. I made a survey so that if you have ideas or if my students have questions or things they thought was great, they can teach me back or they can ask me questions. And of course, the answers are immediately time-stamped and put right into a spreadsheet. Now I can go to the I can go in and edit this form, and what you see is it's just a survey. Now the survey, of course, I can add any types of questions I want and make the questions. I can embed it, so I can embed in the survey in SoftChalk, and then the survey answers, in other words, as you guys answer questions I have or any questions you have, it will come right into here, and I'll be able to read through and process through to answer your questions in an easy way. I wish, looking back when I was doing my doctoral work, I had a way to gather survey data like this, because it puts everything into one nice spreadsheet, which is nice. Another thing that you have in Google Docs is the ability to create a document. And so when I'm working on teams at work, what I'll do is I'll create a document in Google Docs, I'll click on the share button, and then I'll say, look, go ahead and share it with anybody who I give the link to and allow them to edit it. And now I can have 25 people on a team all working on the same document with me. If I want my students to work on various documents, I can break them into different groups and put links to these documents right inside of a SoftChalk lesson. And now the notes that different students are taking, if I break them into different teams, they're all sharing one document. And I have access to the document, and they have access to the document from anywhere. It's Google Docs. Google Docs, again, you can use, depending on what you teach, you can use it for documents, presentations for speech teachers. You can use it for spreadsheets if you're teaching business or any of the other. It's a shared spreadsheet. You can have multiple people editing and working on the spreadsheet at the same time. And again, the best thing is forms, because you can do digital surveys in a matter of seconds. All right, let's go back to harnessing here. We have Google Docs. And the last thing on our list to get through is something called Poll Everywhere. Now, let me give you a little background on this. For a few years now, I've been using a CPS system, a computer clicker system, if you will. In my classrooms, I can give a poll in my classroom and survey my entire class. What it means is I bought basically this bag with about 30 remote controls, and I ask a question, and students respond to the question with their remote controls. And the clicker systems, depending on which company you buy them for, can be a couple $1,000s. Well, about a year ago, I found out that Poll Everywhere could be used, and Poll Everywhere can do the exact same thing as a clicker system, except it turns your cell phone or your computer or anything you're using that can get into the technology into a clicker system. And so you have students in class. Most of them are texting. Most of them have cell phones if you're at the college level. If you want to do a quick survey, you could ask them. They text in an answer or tweet in an answer if they're using Twitter. If they have a computer phone, they can log in to the computer phone and actually put in their answer as in a computer survey. And then what happens is the answers are given to you. For example, here is a poll that I can do. And as a matter of fact, I'm assuming that some of you out there may have cell phones or the like with you as you're listening to this presentation. And so if you do use Twitter, you can go to Twitter and just @poll and then put in one of these numbers, whichever number you think is the right number. If you have a phone and you want to code it in, you can text it to 22333 and then text the message. The question is do you think you will use Poll Everywhere, or do you think you could use Poll Everywhere in your classroom or in your SoftChalk content? I'm going to go ahead and tweet one in just for the fun of it. I'll go ahead and do @poll. See, somebody's faster than me there. @poll, and then I'm going to say, no, I think I'd rather spend $2,000 on a clicker survey. And what will happen is the survey answers are going to come in. And so what you notice now is that as the group of you answers, the responses are going to start to come in, and you'll begin to get responses. Now, this is neat and interesting technology because you can embed it in SoftChalk, but in class you could also use it in the sense that you can download it as a PowerPoint. This particular slide can be downloaded right to PowerPoint. But you can also share and publish it. In other words, you can share your responses or share your surveys with others. And if you click on where it says blog or web page, that's how you get to the Twitter content. I mean, to the SoftChalk ability. What you can do is this right here is essentially a widget. It's something you could put into, you could create a survey question and put it into any SoftChalk module. And as people are taking your SoftChalk module, they answer the survey. How do you get the code for that? Well, the code's right here. Now, if you wanted the answer widget, for example, you notice right now we've got different people answering, right? As they text in or put their answers in, we can have this embedded into our SoftChalk content by simply stealing this code right here. And again, you don't have to know the code. You just have to be able to copy and paste the code. You copy it from here, and then you go back over to SoftChalk, and you insert a widget, and you paste the code. And if you can do that, then you can put these surveys into SoftChalk. Let's go back over here. Let's see here. Here's another display, just another way of looking at the poll. All of these are able to be embedded in SoftChalk. You can create an account. It's a free account. All of the technologies that I've been showing you so far today are free technologies. You don't have to pay for any of them. You can log in and use them through free accounts. That includes the language profile, the vocabulary profile that came out of Corpus Linguistics. Screen Jelly's free, Prezi's free, YouTube's free, Voicethread's free, Google Docs is free, and Poll Anywhere is free. Something that I guess I should show you before I start taking questions is that if you do have questions or if you are interested in learning more about this kind of stuff, I do have a blog that if you have ideas you want to share with me and post on the blog, let me know. I'm about getting ideas out to teachers. But if you go to teachertricks.org, this will take you to my blog. And on my blog, of course, I have, I presented last at Southeast TESOL, and I presented on some of these things. I presented on a variety of other different technologies there. But you have that. And then I'll be giving you the URL. It's actually a tiny URL, tinyurl.com/4 SoftChalk. And if you do that, what that will take you to is that will take you to the course that I created in SoftChalk that, again, has everything. And remember, it's a multi-page course that's got the introduction information about what the vocabulary is. I even made a vocabulary refresher video. And so if you don't know the vocabulary and you want me to reteach it to you, I already made it in YouTube. It's there. You can click on it and watch it. I also have all the downloads. You can download this as a PDF. You can download it as a widget. And so it's all there. And so, Steve, how we doing? How are the questions coming in?
We're doing great. Several people wanted to confirm and reaffirm that everything you were showing was free, and you did that at the very end to sort of confirm, because people say, is this free? It's like, this is too good to be free.
Right.
And some people say, could you repeat the website for the tiny URL? But let me say that tomorrow you will get an email, everybody who attended, and in that email will be a link to the archive, the recording of the session, and the tiny URL to the website that he just showed you. So that information will come in an email to you tomorrow. So if you missed it now, it will be there again. Let me start with the questions. Somebody asked about whether or not Poll Everywhere is useful in an asynchronous environment, or what happens because some students will be logged in at one time and others will come later. How does that all work with Poll Everywhere?
Well, I guess it depends on what you're trying to do with the poll. If you're trying to do a live interactive poll, then it's not going to work in an asynchronous environment. However, if you have students that you know, and again, it depends on how you set up your content to be delivered. If you set a certain time parameter around assignment, and you know, let's say that we're going to have a reading and brainstorming phase prior to a writing phase, if you're a writing teacher, or if you're going to do certain things, you can put the modules in or the surveys in and get a general census for where the class is in one assignment, and then open up another assignment. There's ways to control that. I understand, I guess, that a lot of times when I use surveys like this, I'm doing a in-face presentation, and I show teachers. I use this I can use this in the classroom. I can use this in big auditorium halls. But again, if you want to embed it in SoftChalk and you want to get an idea of where the class is, you can actually do an advanced survey, you could send the survey first, get responses from your students, and then later on, after the content has been taught, you could resurvey them to see if you've changed any of their, in terms of affect. Have you moved them on the bar? Have you changed their perspective? It just allows you a quick and easy way, to get survey information to your students. It's also real easy. If this was embedded, you wouldn't have to text or tweet or anything. If you embedded this widget as part of learning, it would just be on the screen, and students would go, "Do you think?" and they would click on it, and it would be done. And so it's pretty fast. I guess it's a matter of design. Does that make sense, Stephen?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions, so let me
bring them in
forward with them. I'm going to take ones that just came up. Oh boy, how do you keep your students from feeling overwhelmed with using so many tools and having so many accounts? But I think, if I understand what you're saying, that these accounts are faculty accounts and teacher accounts, if you will. And when you embed them into a SoftChalk lesson, they don't actually have their own accounts. They're just using the environment you've created.
Exactly, and you don't have to use all of these technologies. I don't use all of these technologies. I mean, the showcase is to showcase what I found that I think would spark energy and ideas in the classroom. I would never design a lesson, or I have never designed a lesson that really utilizes each one of these technologies at the same time. What I tend to do is I mash them up. For example, I have a flip camera. I'll take my flip camera and I'll video record something. For example, I'll video record me doing something. Let's say, for example, I bought a scanner with some endowed shares dollars for my students. I would video record it. I would turn that into a video. I would put that into YouTube. Then I would take that YouTube clip and I'd put it into SoftChalk into a lesson to teach students how to scan documents. I then may survey them about different things, or I could maybe create a Prezi presentation that would show them something. If they're having trouble, a lot of times students have trouble with their IT. In other words, they may be taking a hybrid class or an online class and they're not sure how to use a content module. Well, if you embed that little screen jelly widget that allows them to record what they're seeing, you can avoid that Murphy's Law effect that happens. You know, like when you go to a lot of times when you call the IT guy to help you with your computer, when he comes to look at your computer is not misbehaving. But as soon as he walks out of your office, the computer starts misbehaving again. Well, if you have that embedded video screen capture, students can start screen capturing when they have trouble, and that would give you better feedback. Again, most of your students probably already have a Facebook account, and so they can send that Screen Jelly video with their Facebook account. They don't have to create a Screen Jelly account. They can use Facebook to do it.
Let me go to Screen Jelly for a moment. Question about the time limit. Apparently the time limit is 3 minutes if I was looking over your shoulder. Okay. And can Screen Jelly record a video conference such as something using Skype?
Well, I believe Skype has its own ability to record stuff, but yes, anything that's on your screen can be recorded. Anything that you can see will be recorded. The problem with viewing Skype is a lot of times when you use Skype, you're going to be using a headset with a voice mic, and so only you would hear what's going on. You'd be able to record what you see and what you say, but because the sound would be coming in your ear, that could be a problem. If you take the speaker off, then you might have feedback issues. That's just some stuff that I've played with. But there are other technologies that will allow you to do that. The 3-minute limit on Screen Jelly is limiting for some content. There's another technology called Jing that you can see on my Google Teacher Tricks site that gives you more than 3 minutes. Jing also allows you you know, there's a free version and then there's an expanded version. But Jing is the little brother, I guess it's the freeware version of a program called Camtasia, which is a very, very high-end studio. You can make your own, you know, presentations kind of system. But there are other applications out there that do screencasting. Screen Jelly is just a real easy one to embed in SoftChalk, and it's a real easy one because of that particular widget. You can actually embed it and then have students looking for things and then sharing ideas with others. Because they can Facebook to their friends about something they were learning in class, or they could email to themselves notes about something that they were reading online. And so it makes it good for students. That's one of the reasons why I showed you Screen Jelly as opposed to Jing or Cam Studio or any of the other versions that do exist out there.
A comment going back to Voicethread is that Michelle said that looks so much better than discussion boards. She really liked that concept over what typically is done and get student discussion, which is, discussion boards. That's just a comment. Another here about the polls you used and asking whether or not they want to do a pre and a post survey for an online course, and she wants to know, Tasha wants to know whether the results can be cleared each term or whether Widget need to be redone each term. I think you need to.
Are you talking about in the surveys in the poll everywhere?
Doesn't specifically, yes.
Okay, surveys and poll everywhere. If you see this right here, if you look, I assume everybody's still looking at my screen. One of the things about poll everywhere is we have everybody's responses. If I click this clear results button, the survey's back to scratch. It's back to 0.
Okay, good.
And so it's that fast. Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. You can create copies of Voicethread. In other words, if you have multiple classes, I teach reading. I teach 3 classes of reading. And it's up to you how you design it. But if you have 30 students in each class, that becomes almost unmanageable in terms of a Voicethread post. And so you create the content once, and then you make 3 copies of it. And then you get the different embed code for each of the copies, and you just embed it into the different classes. And that's another way to manage numbers in terms of feedback in Voicethread, if that makes sense.
Okay, yes. There's some question about accessibility in Voicethread. And obviously, for the hearing impaired, the Voicethread is going to be a challenge. Have you thought of any way around that?
Well, that's one of the neat things. I'm currently working, and I'm possibly going to put in for an endowed chair this year on this. A colleague of mine who I actually worked, when I came here to Valencia, I worked to develop a program to teach English as a second language to the deaf, and so that's actually near and dear to my heart. What could be done in SoftChalk is that if you have an interpreter that's online, you could actually have the interpreter log in, and using a web camera, the interpreter could essentially record a message, and the deaf student could know to go in. But as far as having it completely ADA compliant with everything being closed captioned or everything having somebody to interpret, that's a little bit difficult. And so I can't give the answers completely, but that's something I am working on. I know that I'm working on that with mashing up YouTube videos that have actually an interpreter using sign language to put a picture-in-picture. I'm working on that hopefully in the next year. We'll see.
Okay, there's a question about recording a video and then putting it someplace in the cloud besides YouTube. And I know that there are other YouTube-like places where you have more privacy, if you will, in terms of where the...
Absolutely. You can also control your privacy in YouTube. That's
true. That's true. Let's see, where else?
There are other places. One of the, again, most of, like, for example, if I go to Screen Jelly, what happens is when you have a recording, you're going to share that recording with people via a link. You can share it via a link, or you can embed it. By embedding it in your course, you're kind of controlling where it goes. If you're putting it inside of, say, a learning management system or inside of SoftChalk, which is inside of a learning management system, the only people who have access to the video you made are the people who are taking that course. And so that's another way to control for that. But it's one of the things about Web 2.0 is it's supposed to be interactive and collaborative. And so they were kind of designed to be shared, not to be held on to.
Good.
But I understand the concern.
Mm-hmm. In Google Docs, two comments about Google Docs. One of them was that it's kind of a clunky interface. It's not as beautiful, as seamless as some, I agree. And Katie asked if there's a Microsoft product that copied Google Docs.
Yes, there is.
I haven't heard of that.
Share settings. And once you change the share settings, you can give permissions and share the link. And so now multiple people can also work on an actual Microsoft document. And if you happen to have Microsoft Word, the current version, on your computer, then you can actually edit it. Rather than editing it in the browser itself, you can download the document, edit it in Word, and then publish it right back to the sky. I guess Google calls them clouds, and Microsoft calls it up in, or maybe I can't remember. One of them, I know this is the Sky Drive for us, and so Microsoft does have it. It's Windows Live. If you've been to Windows Live, you can get it. But I'll tell you right now that Google's interface online up in their cloud is much more effective than Microsoft's Sky interface. But if you do have Microsoft on your computer, then you have the entire open access to Microsoft. You just save it up in the cloud. And so this technology is changing quickly. It's changing as we speak, and so it is there. You just have to check. I would check Windows Live is what I would check.
Okay. We only have time for one more question. I'm going to try to get two questions that are. Could you show the, first of all, could you show the tiny URL on your screen again? People are
absolutely.
They want to see it right away. Can't wait for tomorrow.
Let me do this so it's I want to use files there. Okay. It's the good news is everybody can remember tinyurl.com, right? Right. I'm going to make this bigger. And the benefit of going to tinyurl.com is you do tinyurl.com, and then you type in the number 4, as in 4, and then you just type in the word SoftChalk. I made it as easy as a name as possible so that you guys could remember. And so if you type in tinyurl.com/4SoftChalk, you'll get to the content.
Okay.
So let's see if I can show you that again.
Okay. Let me move to the last question I'm going to have time for.
Okay.
Where in the world? Okay. What is the best way to reference sources, authors when embedding content like YouTube content? And related to that is a question that was up here. Katie says, how do you deal with concerns about academic work and content being held and controlled by companies that are not associated with the school? You know, you're going out to the cloud and a lot of stuff's happening there. We have limited success in introducing 2.0 technologies because of a strong concern about university control of the student records and work. Has that been an issue? Or is it
FERPA laws, yeah, the FERPA laws have I don't know, I see a variety of different perspectives on this. Like any policy decision that happens at colleges and universities. You've got the hard-handed approach to FERPA laws, and then you've got the more open source, let's wait and see what happens kind of approach. The technologies are changing. The laws will change, but as we all know, the laws are going to change slowly. And of course, you've got a power structure that was designed under an old system, and then you've got a bunch of professors that are using these new technologies, and they're clashing. I personally design most of my content myself, but most of the stuff on YouTube, if it was put up there and it was left open, you can email the creator of the content and get permissions to use it in your class. But also, fair use policies, if it's on YouTube and somebody opened it up, you can get fair use. Now, if somebody illegally stole a movie, you know when you're violating fair use. If somebody went to YouTube and illegally stole something and put it up there, then I guess it depends on what the downstream. There's a lot of policy decisions that would have to be made, and of course it depends on the college and what they're willing to do. A lot of the content, like for example, if you go to the tiny URL for SoftChalk, what you'll notice is that I just used the technology I have to actually create most of this content. I don't know if I may have one, but this video right here I made using Camtasia, and it's a video that's going to explain to you what all this vocab is. You'll see that it's the same content, and that way it is mine. I own it. It's in my YouTube site, and I can share it with you guys, and you guys are welcome to use it. You know, I do my best to, when I do a presentation like this, if I'm going to be getting information from other people, which I did, and I guess I should go back up and say this, and I've lost it there. You need to cite your sources, and so I do always embed that, and I do my best to try to stay within the parameters of fair use. But again, there's so much content out there that can be shared, and most people would be happy to share it with teachers, and so I hope that makes sense.
That's great. Let me take the screen. Let me take the presentation mode back because we are now almost on the hour. I don't want to keep people longer than the hour, so I'm going to wind up. I want to tell you a little bit more about SoftChalk and what we do. There's a whole variety of things that are out there.
Stephen, can I say one more thing? I just want to
Sure.
let them know that feel free to contact me. You're going to be getting my contact information, and if you do have more questions and follow-up questions and you'd like to see more about this, feel free to email me or also visit me on my blog. If you have ideas and you have tricks that you'd like to teach me or teach others, you feel free to develop content and put it on that blog as well. I'd like to get content out to share with other people.
Okay, great. And I put in your email address, but the email address, the tiny URL, and the archive of this is all coming to you in an email tomorrow, so you'll get all of that. What I want to sort of tell you is that in addition to this particular Innovators in Online Learning series, we have 3 years doing that, and many of the archives are available on our website, including, and I'm going to ask James to do this soon, is a vignette, a 5 to 8 minute version, sort of a teaser to let people know this is the basics of what I'm talking about. If you want to see the full recording, you can spend 45 minutes instead of the 5. We do weekly demonstrations.
Stephen, can I break in for one second? I created a 5-minute video that does explain everything I taught today, and it is a YouTube video, and it is on that website, just so they know.
Okay, good enough. We've already been there then. Great. We have short courses, so that there's a lot of available material. We can come to your campus and do training. We've got excellent documentation. We have many tutorials, documentation. We have annually done a lesson challenge where the best of the best are submitted, and we choose the top ones and actually offer a $500 prize. But let me sort of go to our website, because I think that will give you, and in the Learn More tab on our website, there's a webinar calendar of everything we're doing, some intro sites, some innovators, the short courses I mentioned. There's some quick tour videos, 1 to 5 minute little briefs on things, and all those are available in a great YouTube SoftChalk environment. So you can go to look on SoftChalk on YouTube, and all this, many of the things are available there. So I just want to point out that there's all that which is available, and finally, and let me display this at the end, that you can contact us if you're interested. If you've thought that this is so wonderful, SoftChalk, you need to buy it now. Our sales team is there. This is my email address, so if you want to talk to me, connect me there. And Dr. May is available at that, and as I